What's up, guys? This week we get into the nitty gritty of being paid for social media. Do we? Do we not? Should we even get into that world, or should we just stay free and clear and organic and do whatever the fuck we want? So we're gonna get all into that. As always, thank you for tuning in. This is the Top of the Podcast.
Hey, I had some for you. So, like in the past, if you needed to know about something, you had to ask a professional, right? Like if you had a question about a car, you have to find a mechanic, right? Hey, I want to put this light fixture in. I have to ask an electrician. Well, now you can just look everything up, whatever you want. It's there. So it helps when you're trying to put together like an IKEA product because someone's already done it and posted a video, which is cool. But in your business, now the customer thinks they know everything, or they got way more information. I don't want to judge, but they have way more information now. They're not experts, but they're bringing more to the table that way. How has that impacted? Like, has it impacted the business in a positive or a negative way? Because in the past, it was you trust the professional to do it. Now it's like, oh, but I saw someone do it this way. So how has the crazy amount of information impacted the business for better or for worse?
Yeah, I think, boy, there's good and bad, right? Just like we were talking, like with the Walmart brand or knockoff brand,
Yeah.
that no name brands in general, certain things like putting a piece of IKEA furniture together or something like that, you could say are acceptable with buying the knockoff version, which is
Yeah.
i.e. going on YouTube finding. But we all have to remember that that's the knockoff version of the trade. It's not the end all be all. Even my videos on YouTube or my videos on Instagram when I'm installing are a quote unquote knockoff version of me coming to your project and walking you through every detail. So when you're looking at these videos, as detailed and professional as it looks, and as excellent that those people may be at their job, because nothing against those people, they work really hard to post those videos. It's still only a condensed, bite-sized version. It's the shit coffee compared to actually having a qualified individual coming to your home and walking you through whatever you're trying to do. So I think it's more in the consumer's perspective that really needs to be corrected or changed in the
Yeah.
industry that's really hurting. Now, of course, you have all the disasters out there that are preaching. So frustrating sometimes. You see someone with like millions of views, and if look, here's the thing: anybody who's posting something online, they care about the views. I don't care what anyone says. Like, oh, I don't care about views. I don't care about followers. Like bullshit. Then you wouldn't be on here. I know people who don't like social media, who don't care for the followers and the likes, and guess what? They don't have accounts. Like they literally don't have a fucking account. Period. So if you have an account, you care to an extent. It doesn't mean that you want millions of people following every move you make, but you care. There's certain people that follow you. You have family members, whatever. That's your business. But to say that you don't care at all, you're not a hermit. You don't live in the woods, and you're not completely off the grid. So you do have some sort of care of who's watching and what they're thinking of what you're doing. That being said, there's some people out there with millions of followers, millions of likes and views and all this stuff, and they're saying some backward ass shit.
Yeah.
Just really backward stuff. And that's the cons of all this, right? Like that's really the hard part of watching that is it's like watching your kid. We were talking about the kids, and your son's on the stool and he's like wobbling, and you're like, you have to save him. It's like watching watching people go through hard times. And when do you jump in? When do you help them? When do you save them? Or when do you let them deal with hard times? So yeah, it's hard. I think society is going through right now. I don't know if we're in a peak or if we're just under it, but we're going through this time where uh, a lot of people are getting a lot of attention, and slowly it's gonna start to find its way into a happy medium where those people are gonna kind of fall off, and then people are gonna go back to this big cycle that we've gone through, right? Like everyone's going to YouTube to figure out stuff how to change your spark plugs in your car and this and that, and then once that excitement's over, you know, a lot of people jumping into tile right now because oh, it's exciting and it's fun and there's big tiles and there's patterns
Yeah.
and all kinds of shit. But when that wears off in 15, 20 years, whatever, it's gonna go back, I think, to call it professional.
Okay, I want to come back to this in a minute about the views and all that stuff. But before we get there, just to finish up on the info stuff. So, do you find it's gone from being from people asking questions to questioning? Like, do you find you're questioned more now than you were in the past?
Definitely. And I find that it comes from an insecurity. So obviously, when people are looking online, like I said, there's people saying backward stuff, and then there's people saying gold. So when you're looking as a consumer, you're seeing all these different things. You're unsure of what's exactly right, and it makes you more unsure the more you watch. So then when you do have a professional come, you're really anxious because you don't know what's what and the proper way and all the processes and stuff. So you don't know what to listen to, how to filter it. So when they're talking, they're constantly questioning because they're unsure, they're insecure. So what I do is I try to read that. I try to read into that as a client and say like, be patient with them because obviously there's a lot that they want to know and they're intrigued about, but they're probably misinformed by a lot of different things. So it's hard, and obviously it depends on each subject, like how exactly you navigate that. But the best way is to become a master of information for you. So if you're a master of information and someone's coming to you and they're asking you questions or they're questioning everything you say, well, you should be able to speak confidently enough, and your confident tones and your information that you're sharing should be available in multiple different places. Someone's saying backward ass shit and they're just making stuff up as they go. That's typically you're only going to see it once. But if someone's saying something true, correct, tried, and tested, then typically you've seen that maybe even just in one other scenario. So if you're watching YouTube videos, you see one excellent person, you see one shit person, and then someone comes to your house and they're professional and they're solid and they're saying the correct things, typically it's going to match up or at least close to the professional. But if they're making shit up, well, their made up shit is going to be different than their made up shit, and it's going to be different from the pro. So you're going to have 3 different ones. And that's why I think people get a little bit confused and unsure. So your tones and how you walk through the project and how you discuss things with people is really important. But just answer the questions, and be honest and be a master of information for sure.
Okay, let's go back to what you're talking about before, about views and likes, because I think that's a very dangerous currency. Like if something gets a lot of views, I fight with people all the time about this. If something gets a lot of views, it doesn't mean it's good. If you have a lot of likes, it doesn't mean you're good. It just means you have that like I find it's a dangerous currency. So if there's 1 million views of, I don't know, like a dog taking a shit, is that a great video or has it just got a lot of views? Like you'll see stuff, like you see anything, and but it has, that has that many views. So I wanted to get into that part about where influencers come from and that sort of thing.
It's funny you say that because I had a thought. I saw a video of the Kardashians, and they were talking. There was like the whole family. They're a family that doesn't do drugs. They don't sell each other out. They're thick as thick can be as far as a family goes, and they're crazy entrepreneurs. We're always looking at them from a perspective of small business. Like I don't have a 500 employee business. I don't have a 100 employee business. I'm looking at from my perspective of small business. The most people have ever worked for me is like 27. So I don't have near the experience they do as far as a professional and an entrepreneur. And I look at it, and a lot of people say like, oh, they're worthless. They pose, they're famous for no reason. And part of me looks at that and I go, well, wait a minute. They're there for a reason. Like enough people like what they say and what they do to follow along with that. So it's kind of I feel torn right now. I don't know if I have a huge opinion because I feel like there are a lot of videos out there that are like they're teaching garbage.
Mm-hmm.
However, the process in which they make the video and the entertainment value that they're providing to people is clearly of value to those people, right? And when we looked at the dollar for the first time in 1700 whatever, did we necessarily love the idea of a piece of paper being valued as gold? Like, did we look at that and say that's stupid? That doesn't make sense. Why would we carry around a piece of paper? I'll just give you a piece of gold. And then the government was like, no, no, this is the best thing. And when you look at money now, it's really like we could go deep into that topic, but it's really fucked up the way that it's represented, and it's all about a representation. So if you look at that, people are just capitalizing on that same thought process.
Well, it's not accidental because then everyone can get 1 million followers. Like you're right. I think you're right. I think it's not. There's no reason for it. I think we know the reason, and sometimes the reason is sad.
That's it. It's, you know, if you're philosophical and you sit back and you look at everything and you really dive into society and the way everybody kind of perceives things, that part's sad. That part you could really dissect and go, God, is that where we're at? Like, we haven't heard anything about Ukraine in like 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on there? It was massive chaos, disaster 3 weeks ago. And now Will Smith took over for a week. And then
we forgot.
And we forgot. And then now, where's Ukraine at? Like, so that's our society. We have to own it. It's a majority of the people that are thinking in that direction.
And it's like whatever works is a reflection of what people want. So they want, they like sex tapes, they like her butt, they like Kim's body, they like the bodies. Like it's very sexually driven stuff, and that's what people like, whether you like it or not. That's so. So I agree with you. You can't knock it in a way. What they're doing, they're capitalizing. They're functioning the system. Deeper in the system is like, well, is it right how they got there? Like what does it say about us? So this is the next thing I want to ask you about, because you, as being someone that's on air, have influence. You could be considered an influencer, right? You make content, you put your opinion out there. So if someone gets up to that certain level, and we could argue about the reason why they got popular, there was a story about the Canadian government paying influencers to post about the vaccine and posting about why they should do it and using their quote influence. See, this is where I find it dangerous. I find influence is dangerous. I do. Because then it's like the people that have gotten that power, are they the ones that should be trusted with then taking it? You know, because it's one thing to be popular, but it's something else to be influential. And so it's even in how you're doing your show, like you don't want to be bought and sold either. Like you want to do it on your own.
No, I don't. And I've made decisions in the past that have been less financially lucrative in order to maintain that ability. I have to say, like, it's weird because I think about in you just saying that, I think about the ultimate power that parents have of the influence over their kids, and we're losing that slowly to other people, like idolizing other people. Like the kids are seeing a lot more out there than they did when we were growing up. So like when we were, 12 years old, we weren't looking at YouTubers, mechanics.
No, you had parents, relatives, teacher at school.
And MTV. That was,
Right.
That was it, right? Like, and so I look at that and I'm like, back then our parents, had a lot of power to influence us. And now, like you said, it's scary because the influence could come from anybody behind the lens. And that does come with great power. And I think that's why athletes get, put under a microscope a lot of times when they're having trouble with the law or whatever they're going through. Everyone's so fast to kind of tear them apart because they're in a position of influence.
So my view, I don't know if you agree with this one. If you say, hey, I'm so-and-so celebrity, and I believe in, for example, the vaccine, and this message is brought to you by the government of Canada, government of whoever, and you declare it, that's one thing. I find it very sneaky if it's someone just posting a video that appears that it's just something they were thinking about, but it was actually paid for and backed. And I think that's where it's a little tricky. And it's not about, it's not getting into the vaccine thing or whatever. It's just about what's authentic and what's not. And I think people need to declare biases and all that stuff ahead of time.
Yeah, it's weird because you have, like, I feel like I'm kind of in a weird gray area with that because I've got a guy online that I've communicated with. I've met him like multiple times. We've been communicating probably like 4 years now, 5 years. And we've had like our disagreements, and sometimes we agree on stuff, sometimes we don't, blah blah blah. But I like that he is now everything. He's a tool review guy, and every time that a company sends him something or wants him to try something, he actually says that. Like, they sent me this, blah blah blah, and I really like that honesty because of what he does. Now, there's certain people out there who use, say a certain product, they've used it for years, like the same product, and they were never paid for it. And then maybe the company comes to them and says, hey, listen, we want to give you some money for you to keep talking about this, or we want to send you some products to keep talking about this. I think that is okay, because it's coming from a very organic place. But eventually we're going to get somewhere where it's like a TV commercial. Why is it a negative thing that someone's getting paid to promote a product, when that girl on TV never used Crest in her life, and she's had fake teeth and whitening and all this shit, and she's in a Crest toothpaste commercial? That is a blatant lie, but we've accepted it because it's been around since before our parents, basically our parents did. So I think social media is going to get to a point like that where we just all know that someone's up there talking about a product. It's like a commercial. Like,
it is a commercial.
And I think it's gonna become that way. I think it's weird because we're just trying to figure all this out. It's exciting, actually, if you think how society reacts to certain things, with all of social media. When you see somebody, you either attach yourself or identify them as somebody who's coming across genuine or not.
Correct.
And if they're not genuine, whether they say they're being paid or not, I don't think it really is going to change the overall opinion eventually. I think we're going to get to a place where we're going to be like, okay, I know that guy's full of shit. I've seen his, videos, whatever. We just need to get to that place because I feel like there's a lot of business behind the scenes that if you make a decision like that, like if you come out and say, hey, I'm being paid by this company, you're done. A lot of people will reject you. A lot of people are scared to take product or to make money on a product that they should be making money because they're advertising for that company. Like, if I had a tool I loved and I was always talking about it, at some point you're gonna have some kind of like, hey, I'm doing something for you and I should get something for it. I'm helping boost your sales. Whether your product's valuable or not, you don't care. I do, but you don't. So whether the public sees that I value the product as being genuine or not is the most important factor. So I think in doing that, you have to build up that repertoire with a fan base before you start saying this company paid me for this. Because if you have 100 followers, no views, and you come out and say somebody gave me this product to tell you guys about, then you'll never make anything.
Yeah.
So it's a weird kind of gray area that you have to find. And I danced in that for a while, and it's tough for me because I see it from both sides. There is a business on the back end, and when you start playing and tickling the toes of big companies, all of a sudden contracts come out. All of a sudden this happens. All of a sudden that happens, and it can be scary because someone can own you. I don't have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've heard some war stories about guys who got sued, and just dropping that paper off at your front door could cost you 10 grand. Go get a lawyer, going through all that stuff. No one has, like, it's stuff that's made people shut their because of that. So I mean, it's really a weird place right now in big business. Like I said, like you're gonna see that. I don't know if anybody saw NWA, but like the Ice Cube moment when he was like, "Fuck your contract," and he bounced and made his own record label. Like that is where a lot of people are running right now, especially contractors, because contractors out there don't want to hear you've been paid because they weren't paid. It's a very jealous, so weird, especially tile contractors. It's so weird because like they want you to do well until you do well, and then they don't want you anymore. You know what I mean? Then they're like, "Oh, that fucking guy, he did this, he did that, blah blah blah." So there's a level of stress. I've had people that I was best friends with 5 years ago that are fucking nasty messages to me and shit. And I'm like, why? Because things are going better now than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. Like because things are happening, that's why you have issues. That's why you have something to say. Like that's the hard part. I think so. I know there's a lot of contractors out there that are struggling. I communicate with a lot of guys that are like at my level or much higher even, and girls included, and I know they're battling this situation right now. What's up, guys? Thank you as always for tuning in to the Tile Free Podcast. We got into some good stuff. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to drop a comment in the subscribe. Anyway, like, subscribe, follow, do all that good stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed today's podcast. If you didn't, obviously let me know what's up. Now it's time